Welcome to The Explainer. I'm really glad you're here because today we're tackling a massive, high-stakes topic. The global demand for specialized recovery vehicles has firmly positioned China as a primary hub for engineering and assembly. But here's the reality. Navigating this market requires way more than just a simple price comparison. Today, our goal is to shift your procurement focus completely away from mere price tags. We're going to look at how to evaluate true engineering capability and mitigate serious operational risk when sourcing wrecker trucks from China. It's time to pull back the curtain on how it's actually done. Here's our structural roadmap for today. We'll be covering the vehicle landscape, the anatomy of quality, chassis integration, factory quality control, the exact procurement workflow, and wrapping up with some essential FAQs. Let's dive right in. Section 1. The recovery vehicle landscape. Chinese manufacturers have totally evolved from simple assembly plants into highly sophisticated engineering hubs. You can see this really clearly in flatbed or rollback wreckers. These are your 3 to 10-ton capacity workhorses that use a hydraulic tilting bed to lift vehicles entirely off the ground. Now, the absolute crucial engineering detail you've got to look for here is a low tilt angle design, right around 8 to 10 degrees. You absolutely need this if you're going to safely load luxury cars or anything with low ground clearance without completely tearing off their front bumpers. Next up, we have integrated tow trucks, commonly known as self-loaders. These combine the boom and underlift into one super efficient unit, making them brilliant for quick pickups in really congested urban areas. But here's the non-negotiable part: high-tensile steel. The Stinger, that's the underlift, has to withstand repetitive daily urban stress without suffering from catastrophic metal fatigue. It's a real game changer when done right. And then we reach the heavy-duty rotators. Guys, this is the absolute pinnacle of towing engineering. We're talking about a boom that rotates a full 360 degrees for those incredibly complex missions, like uprighting an overturned semi-truck. Because these machines handle such extreme torque, a manufacturer's welding certifications and the precision of their hydraulic valves are strictly non-negotiable. I mean, if they fail, the entire recovery fails. Which brings us to a golden rule in this industry. You really have to look beyond the exterior paint. Sure, a fresh coat of ED paint looks fantastic, but paint doesn't tow a truck. You need to demand detailed data sheets from these manufacturers so you can fundamentally understand the actual lifespans of the components you're buying. Section 2. The anatomy of quality. To truly gauge longevity, we literally have to lift the hood on specific subcomponents. For your steel grade, you should always demand Q345B or Q460 high-tensile steel to prevent structural cracking under heavy loads. When it comes to hydraulic valves, top-tier components like Italian hydrocontrol are a must. They completely eliminate that terrifying shuddering effect when you're lifting a multi-ton load. Winches? They need a 4 to 50-ton gear spec for raw pulling force, and definitely insist on electrophoretic priming, or ED coating, to prevent rust, especially if you operate in high humidity regions. Section 3. Mastering chassis integration. You know, a wrecker is really only as reliable as its foundation. The best towing superstructure in the world is completely useless if the chassis integration and the power takeoff, the PTO alignment, fail. Reputable bodybuilders always build on major chassis OEMs, and you've got to match the brand to your specific operational needs. For instance, Dongfeng offers incredible parts availability in Africa. Sinotruk, that's your go-to for heavy-duty 8x4s. Isuzuki's Chinese joint venture is the absolute gold standard for urban engine longevity, while Foton provides highly competitive pricing if you're looking for mid-range flatbeds. But listen, here is the single most critical takeaway of this whole process. You must demand a letter of authorization from the bodybuilder. Think about it, you're permanently altering a factory chassis. You need ironclad proof from the original equipment manufacturer that these modifications won't void the base vehicle's global warranty. Please, do not skip this step unless you actually enjoy explaining to your boss why your brand new fleet has absolutely zero warranty coverage. Section 4. Evaluating factory quality control. Technical expertise is proven on the factory floor, not in some glossy brochure. True Tier 1 precision starts right at the raw material stage with automated plasma and laser cutting. Having CNC precision here ensures structural components fit together naturally. This drastically reduces the need for excessive filler welding, which, let's be honest, in heavy machinery is essentially a giant neon sign pointing straight to a future structural failure. And speaking of welding, manual methods are often entirely insufficient for heavy-duty rotators. Instead, you want to look for submerged arc welding, or SAW.
This kind of automated longitudinal welding delivers the absolute consistency and deep penetration that heavy-duty machinery strictly demands to survive on the road. Finally, when evaluating quality control, standard practice has to include a static load test at 1.25 times the rated capacity alongside dynamic functional tests. But hey, don't just take their word for it. Always demand raw video documentation of these specific tests, showing your exact VIN before that truck ever leaves the factory gate. No video? No deal.
Section 5. The procurement workflow. Look, procuring specialized machinery internationally can feel daunting, but having a structured workflow completely removes the risk. Step 1 is technical specification alignment, which really means defining your local axle limits. Step 2 is hydraulic component selection. It pays to spend a bit more upfront for international seals to drastically reduce your downtime later on. Step 3 is the factory audit. If you can't fly out there yourself, hire third-party inspectors like SGS or Intertech to verify capacity. And step 4 is logistics planning, where you will decide between ro-ro shipping or containerization.
A massive part of that workflow is nailing down essential compliance and after-sales support. For safety, you're looking for CE marking and WWTA for Europe, ISO 9001:2015 for quality management, and the CCC mark for the base vehicle. But you also need to ensure your supplier is professional enough to provide detailed English manuals, proper hydraulic circuit diagrams, and a first service kit. Remember, most hydraulic failures happen because of simple seal wear, so having that kit on day one is an absolute lifesaver.
Section 6. Essential FAQs. Let's rapidly address some of the most common hurdles buyers face. Lead times for standard flatbeds generally sit around 30 to 45 days, but custom rotators will take closer to 60 to 90 days. Can you provide your own chassis? Well, technically yes, but it is a temporary import-export logistical nightmare. You really want the subframe factory engineered. Always verify stability calculation reports during the design phase. And yes, for those wondering, right-hand drive availability is absolutely an option for UK or Australian markets. Now, I want to pose a high-stakes question to you as we start to wrap up. Imagine your brand new, beautifully painted record truck arrives. You put it to work, and within weeks, it fails right there on a job site. What do you think is the most common cause of new truck failure? It's almost always hydraulic oil contamination or air in the lines trapped during the initial setup. It's a silent killer of new machinery. But here's the thing. A top-tier manufacturer will prevent this entirely. They do this by performing incredibly strict, documented flushing procedures and installing high-grade filters long before that truck ever gets on a ship. So what should you take away from all this? Remember, technical expertise is proven on the factory floor, not in a flashy brochure. Use this exact framework for your next major procurement. Demand those data sheets, ask the tough questions about welding, and verify that hydraulic flushing. But I'll leave you with this to consider. When you look at your own fleet's maintenance logs today, how many of those costly breakdowns could have been prevented by auditing the assembly line rather than just negotiating the sticker price? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to break down the complex world around us.